What if the worst moment of your life became the beginning of your greatest love? Imagine being trapped in a deadly snowstorm, alone, afraid, and believing everything is falling apart, only to meet someone who changes your destiny forever. This is not just a love story, it's a reminder that fate often arrives when we least expect it. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this story with someone who believes in destiny, and comment below if you think love can be found in the most unexpected places. Now, let's start this video. The snowstorm struck with ruthless force, swallowing the narrow road and erasing every sign of direction. Clara Whitmore tightened her grip on the steering wheel as icy wind battered her car from all sides. The lawyer who never lost control in court now felt her confidence cracking. The engine sputtered, lights flickered, and then everything stopped. Silence followed, heavy and threatening. Her breath fogged the windshield as fear crept in slowly. No signal on her phone, no passing cars, only endless white. For the first time in years, logic failed her, and she realized success could not protect her here. Minutes stretched into hours, each second colder than the last. Clara wrapped her coat tighter, trying to conserve warmth as her thoughts spiraled. She replayed every decision that led her here, blaming her pride for refusing to wait for help. Her mind, trained to argue and analyze, could not negotiate with nature. Snow piled higher, sealing her in. The cold numbed her fingers, then her resolve. She wondered if anyone would even notice she was missing before night fell completely. In that suffocating stillness, vulnerability stripped her of titles, leaving only a frightened woman alone. Just as despair settled deep, headlights pierced through the storm like a promise. A truck moved slowly, deliberately, as if the driver understood the danger of rushing. The vehicle stopped, and a man stepped out, tall and solid against the wind. He knocked on her window with steady knuckles, his presence instantly grounding. When she lowered the glass, cold air rushed in, but his calm voice cut through it. He asked if she was okay, not with urgency, but with certainty, as if help had already arrived. Clara explained her situation, embarrassed by how small her voice sounded. The man listened carefully, then nodded with understanding rather than judgment. He introduced himself as Ethan, a mechanic who knew these roads and storms well. His confidence was quiet, earned, not displayed. He examined her car with practiced eyes, snow collecting on his jacket. When he told her the engine was frozen and driving was impossible, his honesty carried no fear. He didn't exaggerate danger, but he didn't minimize it either. He offered her shelter without hesitation, explaining he lived nearby. Clara's instincts screamed caution, yet something about him felt safe. The cold had already won most of her resistance. She agreed, allowing him to tow her car. Inside his truck, warmth returned to her body, but her thoughts remained unsettled. She noticed the silence wasn't awkward. Ethan didn't fill it unnecessarily. He focused on the road, steady hands guiding them through the storm, as if chaos outside couldn't touch him. His house was modest but welcoming, filled with warmth that made her chest ache. As soon as she stepped inside, the contrast between the storm and safety overwhelmed her. Ethan moved naturally, offering her a seat, handing her a blanket, making coffee without asking. There was no performance, no attempt to impress. That simplicity unsettled her more than arrogance ever had. She was used to people wanting something from her. Ethan only wanted her to be okay. As the storm raged on, they began to talk. At first, cautiously, then openly. Clara spoke of deadlines and pressure, of a life that never slowed down. Ethan listened without interrupting, without trying to solve her problems. When he spoke of his own life, his words carried acceptance, not regret. Candlelight replaced electricity as power failed, casting soft shadows around them. In that quiet space, Clara felt something unfamiliar growing, not excitement, but peace, and it frightened her more than the storm ever could. Morning arrived gently, as if the storm itself had grown tired of its violence. Pale sunlight filtered through the window, reflecting off endless snow and filling the room with a quiet glow. Clara woke slowly, wrapped in warmth she wasn't used to feeling without effort. For a brief moment, she forgot the courtrooms, the city, the urgency that ruled her life. She heard movement in the kitchen, the soft clink of dishes, and realized she felt safe in a way that unsettled her deeply. Ethan greeted her with an easy smile and a simple breakfast, no questions asked, no expectations implied. They ate together in comfortable silence, broken only by small observations about the weather and the road conditions. Outside, the world was frozen, suspended in white stillness. Inside, something had already begun to move. Clara noticed how grounded Ethan was, how he seemed untouched by the rush that consumed her world. It made her wonder when she had last felt this unhurried. After breakfast, Ethan checked her car. His hands worked confidently, familiar with cold metal and stubborn engines. Clara watched from a distance, struck by how focused he was, how present. When he finally straightened up and told her the car would be ready soon, relief washed over her, followed immediately by disappointment she hadn't expected. Leaving suddenly felt heavier than being stranded ever had. When Ethan handed her the keys, their fingers brushed, a fleeting contact that sent a sharp awareness through her chest. She thanked him, her voice sincere but restrained, afraid to reveal too much. He simply nodded, wishing her a safe drive. There was no dramatic goodbye, no promise made. Yet as Clara drove away, the quiet road felt louder than the storm had been. Something essential had been left behind. Back in the city, life resumed at full speed. Meetings blurred into one another, voices overlapped, and expectations pressed in from all sides. Yet Clara found herself distracted, her thoughts returning to candlelight, to calm eyes, to a man who asked nothing of her except honesty. She tried to dismiss it as exhaustion, as gratitude mistaken for emotion, but the feeling refused to fade. Days passed, then weeks, and the memory only deepened. On an impulse she barely recognized as her own, Clara returned to the small town. She told herself she needed closure, a proper thank you. When she stepped into Ethan's mechanic shop, the familiar scent of oil and metal wrapped around her, grounding her instantly. Ethan looked up, surprise flickering across his face before warmth replaced it. In that moment, Clara understood she hadn't come for closure at all. Their conversations grew longer, richer. She visited more often, staying later each time. They spoke about differences that should have separated them and similarities that quietly bound them. Clara struggled with the contrast between her ambition and the simplicity of Ethan's life. Ethan, in turn, feared becoming a temporary escape rather than a real choice. The tension surfaced one evening when distance and reality finally demanded answers. Clara admitted her fear of losing everything she had worked for. Ethan confessed his fear of being left behind once her world pulled her back in. The argument wasn't loud, but it was honest. When Clara finally broke down, the tears surprised them both. She wasn't crying over a man or a decision, but over the realization that success had cost her the ability to choose happiness freely. Ethan didn't offer solutions. He didn't ask her to stay or beg her to leave her life behind. He only held her hands and told her that love was not about sacrifice alone, but alignment. That sometimes two lives don't collide to destroy each other, but to reshape themselves into something better. In that moment, Clara felt seen not as a lawyer, but as a woman who was tired of running. The choice, when it came, was quiet. Clara adjusted her life rather than abandoning it. She opened a small legal practice near the town, offering her skills to people who had never been heard before. The work was meaningful, the pace human. Ethan supported her without insecurity, proud without possession. Their love grew not from dependency, but from shared ground. The woman who once measured her worth in victories found fulfillment in balance. The man who fixed broken machines helped heal a restless heart. What began as a storm became a turning point neither of them had planned. And in the stillness that followed, they learned that sometimes being forced to stop is the only way to find where you truly belong.